Security, get this woman off the grounds now. Victoria Bradford's voice cracks through the Hampton estate like a whip, sharp enough to slice the summer air in two. Her diamond bracelet flashes as she gestures with a cold flick of her wrist, the sort of gesture someone practices their entire privileged life. I will not have our family's reputation ruined by some stranger who wandered in off the highway. The staff stiffens. Guests glance over their champagne flutes. But the woman standing at the center of Victoria's fury doesn't flinch. She doesn't step back. She doesn't apologize or scramble the way people usually do when Victoria Bradford turns her attention on them. She stands completely still, composed, a quiet strength wrapped in a simple navy dress. Ma'am, there seems to be a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, she laughs loudly, theatrically, ensuring nearby guests hear every syllable. You're trespassing at a private wedding, a Bradford wedding. Do you have any idea what that means? Angela Washington simply folds her hands in front of her. I mean no harm, I believe. Oh, please. I know your type. You saw fancy cars, a big house, and thought you'd slip in hoping to, what? Network? Beg? Claim some distant relation? She waves toward two guards approaching across the lawn. Escort her out before she starts digging through purses. Angela's gaze stays steady, calm, almost knowing. Of course, she says, offering a nod toward the guards, if that is what you wish. But as security moves toward her, Angela doesn't head toward the exit. She walks deeper into the estate. And that, more than anything, rattles the people watching. She moves with ease, familiarity, like she's walked these brick paths hundreds of times, like her feet know exactly where not to step. The catering manager, arranging dessert trays, freezes mid-reach. One waiter nearly drops a platter. A pair of servers exchange panicked glances. Victoria notices. What? Why are you all looking at her like that? No one answers. Angela continues along the garden walkway, stepping effortlessly around a cracked stone slab most guests stumble on. She turns down a narrow path guests never use, one that connects the Rose Walk to the old carriage house. Only someone who'd grown up on this estate would know that shortcut exists. Victoria watches, confusion flickering across her perfectly made-up face. Why does she know where she's going? Why does the staff look so rattled? Then it happens. The groundskeeper, Thomas, who has worked here longer than Victoria's been alive, approaches with a trembling hand on his cap. His eyes widen as he studies Angela's face. His voice cracks. Miss Angela, is it really you? Victoria spins so fast her heels screech against the stone. You know her? She demands. Thomas hesitates, swallowing hard. His gaze flicks nervously between Victoria and Angela, guilt swirling behind his eyes. Yes, ma'am. I mean, she used to be here, years ago, a very long time, before the estate changed. Angela smiles gently. Hello, Thomas. The hydrangeas look beautiful. You've cared for them well. Thomas's throat tightens. Tears glimmer. You look just like your father. The world seems to stop spinning. Victoria steps between them, fury boiling behind her perfect posture. Thomas, that's enough. Back to work immediately. He retreats quickly, but not before offering Angela a trembling bow of respect. And Victoria sees it. Respect. For a woman she's been calling a trespasser. What game are you playing? Why is the staff acting like you're someone important? But Angela doesn't answer. She continues her quiet walk through the estate, fingertips brushing the bark of an old oak tree. Her expression softens. On that trunk, nearly faded into obscurity, are initials carved decades ago. WW and EW. A reminder of a time before the Bradfords bought the property, before the renovations, before the rebranding, before everything was taken. Victoria's irritation mutates into something darker, unease. She storms after Angela like an animal following the scent of a threat. That's enough wandering. Security! Two guards approach again, though slower this time. They look uncomfortable, almost apologetic. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Certainly, Angela says, standing from a stone bench. But the moment she moves, Victoria seizes the opportunity to raise her voice so nearby guests can hear.
We have a wedding crasher, everyone. Apparently, she thinks she belongs here. As if we'd associate with someone who, well, with someone like that. A hush falls over the lawn. Heads turn. Necks crane. Is she causing trouble? Constance Ellis asks, clutching a pearl necklace like she expects it to shield her from scandal. Absolutely, Victoria calls back. She snuck onto our property, claiming she knew the place. Can you imagine? A ripple of disapproving murmurs sweeps through the guests. People will do anything for a handout these days. It's always the same type. No shame at all. Angela walks between the guards with the posture of a queen, ignoring the venom around her. Every hateful whisper is catalogued silently. Names, faces, reactions. And Victoria sees that too. You think staring like that intimidates us? Victoria sneers. No, I'm simply remembering. The wedding photographer lowers his camera as Victoria storms toward him. Delete those pictures. I'm serious. I want no record of this embarrassment. Yes, ma'am. He scrolls quickly, pretending to delete everything. He deletes nothing. And Angela sees that too. Her lawyer's mind is already building the shape of something inevitable. Staff members watch from windows, hairdressers, cooks, cleaning staff, valets, all wearing the same expression. Recognition. Regret. Fear. Victoria slams her heels against the ground. Why is everyone staring? Get back to your jobs! But no one truly does. And that terrifies her more than Angela herself. Finally, Angela reaches the front gates. Tall ironwork arching overhead, adorned with an engraved crest that once named the original owners. The Washington family. Her family. She lifts a hand and traces the small, almost polished-away emblem, a looping W intertwined with another. An emblem the Bradfords tried to erase. The security guard at the gate watches her, brows knitting. You know this estate, don't you? Angela turns toward him, the faintest shadow of a smile crossing her lips. I was raised here. And inside the house, still unaware of the storm about to break, the groom adjusts his tie, ready to speak her name.
The estate hummed with the soft chaos that always preceded a high society wedding. But after Angela Washington's removal, a strange current pulsed beneath the surface, an uneasiness the guests couldn't quite name. The musicians tuning their violins hesitated between notes. The florists adjusting the orchids moved with stiff hands. Even the servers, who had been expertly balancing champagne a moment ago, now walked as if afraid of dropping everything. Victoria Bradford didn't notice most things beneath her social rank, but she noticed this. She always noticed when attention shifted away from her, especially today. Her daughter's wedding day. And absolutely nothing was allowed to threaten the illusion of perfection. She marched back toward the main terrace, spine straight, chin high, her designer gown flowing behind her like the tail of a furious peacock. Conversations dipped as she passed, not in admiration, but in wariness. She could feel it. They weren't whispering about the flowers or the music or the breathtaking ocean view. They were whispering about that woman. She could feel her blood start to simmer. How did she even get in? Victoria snapped at one of the junior planners who practically tripped over her own clipboard trying to escape. We're investigating, Mrs. Bradford, she stammered. Investigate faster. I don't want any more surprises. But the truth was this. The biggest surprise hadn't happened yet. Inside the bridal suite, Emily Bradford, the bride, stood before a gilded mirror, her ivory gown shimmering softly under the chandelier. Her makeup was perfect, her hair flawless. She looked like someone who should be joyful. She wasn't. Her hands trembled as she held her bouquet. Her maid of honor, Lily, noticed instantly. Em, what's going on? You look like you're about to faint. Emily swallowed hard, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. There's a lot happening. Like what? The music, the guests? Your mom freaking out? No, Emily whispered, staring at her reflection as if she didn't quite recognize the woman looking back. Something else. The door creaked open. Victoria swept into the room. The panic on Emily's face vanished behind practiced decorum. "Mother," Emily breathed, "I heard yelling outside. What happened?" Victoria gripped the doorknob tightly, her jewelry clinking like little warnings. "Nothing you need to concern yourself with," she said, closing the door with a sharp click. "A trespasser?" Emily said. "Yes," Victoria smoothed her dress as if brushing away the memory. "Some woman who thought she could wander onto our property during your wedding. I had security remove her." Emily's voice softened. "Was she dangerous?" "Dangerous, no. Just bold. You know the type. They see money and think they're entitled to be near it." Lily glanced at Emily, uneasy. "What did she look like?" Lily asked. Victoria waved a dismissive hand. "Irrelevant. Security took her out the gate. Problem solved." But Emily's face had gone pale, and Victoria noticed. "What? Why do you look like that?" Emily hesitated. "Too long." "Emily," Victoria pressed, "do you know her?" "No," Emily said too quickly. "No, I just hope everything's okay." Victoria studied her daughter, suspicion flickering. Emily looked away. In another wing of the estate, the groom, Michael Hawthorne, adjusted his cufflinks in the mirror of the groom's quarters. His father hovered behind him, straightening chairs for no reason other than nerves. "This is it, your big moment," Mr. Hawthorne said with a forced smile. Michael nodded absently. He should feel excited. He should feel grateful. He should feel something. Instead, he felt an ache he'd been pushing down for months, an ache that now pressed harder than ever. A soft knock landed on the door. His best friend, Jordan, poked his head in. "Dude," Jordan said quietly, "you need to come outside right now." Michael frowned. "Why? What's wrong?" Jordan's jaw tightened. "There's someone here." "Who?" Jordan hesitated. "Someone who knows you." Michael's pulse kicked. Jordan's voice dropped to a whisper. "Someone who you said was gone." Michael froze. His breath stalled in his chest. He set the cufflink down with trembling fingers. "Where?" he whispered. "She's at the gate," Jordan said. "Security is holding her." Michael didn't bother grabbing his jacket. He bolted. Outside, near the gates, Angela waited with her hands folded in front of her, the picture of calm dignity. The two guards flanked her but kept a respectful distance now, their earlier confidence eroded by something they couldn't explain. She looked peaceful, but her eyes were razor sharp, silently reading everything. Michael skidded to a stop the moment he saw her. His world tilted. His breath left him. And then, "Angela?" His voice splintered. "Oh my God, Angela?" She looked up slowly. "Hello, Michael." He staggered back a step. Jordan caught his arm. You can't be here," he whispered, shaking. "Not today, not—" Her expression softened with something almost like grief. "You didn't tell them?" she asked. Michael's throat clenched. He couldn't speak. Angela exhaled slowly. "I see." A painful silence stretched between them. The guards exchanged glances, unsure whether to intervene. Michael stepped closer, his voice cracking. I thought you moved away. I thought you—" Angela finished for him. "Yes, that was the idea." His breath hitched. "I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you." Angela looked at him, not with anger but with a heartbreak so quiet and so deep it twisted the air around them. "You did hurt me," she said softly. "But that isn't why I'm here." His body went rigid. "Then why?" he asked. Angela glanced toward the estate, toward the milling guests, the lavish decorations, the world built on a lie. "I'm here for the truth," she said gently. "And I'm here because you asked me to be." Michael blinked rapidly. "What? I never—" "Yes, you did," Angela whispered. "You asked me to come. You begged me, Michael, so here I am." Jordan's mouth dropped open. The guards stared. Michael's voice shook.
Angela, what are you talking about? Angela reached into her small clutch purse and pulled out a folded note, worn at the edges, the ink smudged from handling. She held it out. Michael didn't want to touch it. His hands shook as he took it anyway. He unfolded the paper, his face drained of color. Jordan leaned over his shoulder, eyes widening as he read the message scrawled on the page in Michael's own handwriting. If anything ever goes wrong, come back. On my wedding day, before it's too late. Michael's breathing hitched. No, he whispered. Angela, where did you get this? I didn't. She looked at him with unbearable softness. You put this note under my door 8 months ago. Michael's heart crashed inside his chest. 8 months ago. 8 months ago, he had been desperate, drunk, breaking, begging for someone he trusted. 8 months ago, he had written the truth down somewhere. And someone had taken advantage of it. Angela watched him unravel. You didn't send it, did you? His voice broke. No. Angela closed her eyes. That's what I thought. Michael stepped closer. Then who did? Angela finally looked him dead in the eyes. That, she said quietly, is exactly why I came. Inside the estate, the music began playing. The wedding march. But nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to go as planned.
Sophia didn't realize she'd stopped breathing until the elevator doors opened with a soft chime. She stepped out onto the 3rd floor of the Whitmore mansion, the private residence level. Even here, luxury dripped from every surface. Marble floors so polished they reflected her silhouette. Walls lined with abstract art that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. Silent hallways that felt more like a museum than a home. Mrs. Grace walked 3 steps ahead, her posture stiff, hands clasped, voice lowered to a whisper. He's in here, she said, pausing at a pale blue door decorated with tiny silver clouds. Ben's nursery. Sophia's heart clenched. The last time she entered a child's room this carefully was the night her mother died, when she had to wake Diego and Emma to explain why Nana wouldn't be coming home again. Mrs. Grace opened the door, and the sight inside nearly shattered Sophia. Ben Whitmore sat in a crib, knees pulled to his chest, cheeks gaunt, eyes dim. He wasn't crying anymore. Crying takes strength. He barely even blinked as they stepped in. A toddler shouldn't look like that. A toddler shouldn't know that kind of exhaustion. Sophia felt her throat close. "Oh, baby," she whispered before she could stop herself. Mrs. Grace exhaled shakily. He was such a bright little thing, always babbling, always laughing. "What happened?" Sophia asked softly. "That's what we don't know. The doctors keep saying there's no physical reason for the refusal, no infection, no allergy, nothing." Sophia knelt beside the crib, lowering herself slowly so she wouldn't appear threatening. Ben's eyes flicked toward her, curious, faint, searching. Sophia offered him a small smile. He looked away. A defensive dismissal, like trust was a luxury he no longer believed in. Sophia recognized it instantly. The same look Diego had the year her ex-husband walked out on them. The same hollow glance Emma had when the landlord threatened eviction. This wasn't a medical problem. This was emotional starvation. Sophia looked around the room. Rich. Immaculate. Spotless. But cold. Everything was curated. The toys arranged by color, the shelves perfect, the walls symmetrical. Nothing looked touched. Nothing looked loved. She spoke softly, not looking at Mrs. Grace.
Who takes care of him day to day? Mostly the staff. And his mother? Mrs. Grace hesitated. Sophia didn't push. Hesitation told its own story. Before she could ask more, the door burst open. Vanessa Whitmore entered. Perfect hair, perfect skin, perfect clothes, eyes rimmed with smudged concealer. The only imperfection money couldn't hide. Her voice cracked like glass. "Is he eating yet?" Sophia stood, steady and calm. "Not yet, but we're just getting acquainted." Vanessa wrung her flawless manicured hands. "He needs to eat something, anything," the pediatrician said. "The pediatrician tried feeding him while talking on his phone," Mrs. Grace muttered under her breath. Vanessa shot her a look, the kind that could freeze a volcano. "That's not helpful, Grace." Sophia stepped forward. "Mrs. Whitmore, children don't starve themselves unless they're trying to communicate something. What happened before this started?" Vanessa stiffened. I don't know. Everything was normal." "Nothing? No argument? No travel? No new people? No disruptions in routine?"
I said everything was normal. The tone was sharp enough to slice through glass. Mrs. Grace looked down, the way someone does when they know the truth but know speaking it out loud would cost them their job. Sophia turned back to Ben. He hadn't moved. He hadn't made a sound. Just breathing. Shallow, quiet, distant. She walked closer, lowering her voice to a whisper only the boy could hear. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm Sophia." One slow blink. "I heard you're not feeling so good." Ben swallowed, barely moving. "I know it's hard," she whispered. "I know things feel scary right now, but I'm here to help you, only if you want me to." For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Not trust, but awareness. Recognition that someone was actually talking to him, not at him. Sophia slowly reached into her bag and pulled out her mother's battered recipe notebook. Mrs. Grace gasped softly. "You brought it." Vanessa frowned. "What is that?" "Something that has helped a lot of scared kids feel safe again," Sophia replied gently. She flipped to the page with the healing custard recipe. Faded ink, stained edges, her mother's handwriting curling beautifully across the paper. Vanessa's expression shifted. Annoyance, disbelief, insult. "Are you seriously planning to feed my son custard?" "Not yet," Sophia said, still kneeling beside the crib. "I want him to smell it first. My mother used to say scent reaches the heart before taste ever can." "That's unscientific," Vanessa snapped. She didn't look at her. "So is a child refusing food for 5 days." Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it, because she didn't have a counter-argument. Sophia turned to Mrs. Grace. "Do you have whole milk, cinnamon, fresh eggs?" "We do." Grace nodded quickly. "Everything." "Good. Give me 10 minutes." Vanessa stepped between them, eyes widening. No, absolutely not. You can't just—" Sophia met her gaze. Steady, unmoving, unwavering. "I'm not asking for permission," she said calmly. "I'm telling you what your son needs." Vanessa froze. No one spoke to her like that. Not staff, not doctors, not even her husband. Mrs. Grace stepped beside Sophia, a silent show of support.
This is the first time he's shown interest in anything in days. We should listen. Vanessa's throat bobbed. Fine, she whispered, tears trembling in her lashes. Fine. Do whatever you need to do. Sophia nodded once, then walked toward the hallway, not waiting for approval. Mrs. Grace hurried behind her. When they were finally out of the nursery, away from Vanessa's brittle composure, Grace exhaled a long-held breath. You have no idea how bad things have gotten, she whispered. Sophia slowed her pace. What do you mean? Grace glanced around to make sure they were alone. The boy didn't start refusing food because he was sick. He started refusing after the argument. Sophia's pulse quickened. What argument? Grace swallowed. The one with his mother, the night she lost it. She screamed at him. Not a normal, frustrated yell. I mean, she lost it. She called him a burden, a mistake, said he was ruining her life, said she wished. Her voice broke. Sophia's heart dropped. Her stomach twisted. Her jaw clenched, because she already knew how the sentence ended. Grace wiped her eyes. Since that night, he's been shutting down more and more, and when she realized what she did, she panicked. But instead of apologizing, she tried to pretend it never happened. Kids don't forget, Sophia whispered. No, they don't. Sophia stood still, the hallway closing around her. Now she understood. The silence, the fear, the refusal. Ben wasn't choosing starvation. He was choosing distance. He was choosing protection. He was choosing the only power he had left. Sophia inhaled slowly, then exhaled. Okay, then I know exactly what to do. She stepped toward the kitchen, her mother's notebook pressed to her chest. Unaware that uncovering the truth behind Ben's terror was only the first battle. The war was still ahead, and the Whitmore family had no idea how much damage one honest woman could do when a child's life was on the line.
The kitchen of the Whitmore mansion was big enough to host a cooking show, yet somehow it still managed to feel tense, too quiet, too spotless, too polished to ever suggest real meals happened here. Sophia stood at the stove anyway, sleeves rolled up, whisking the warm custard mixture the same way her mother once did. Slow, steady, patient, never rushing, letting the scent build, letting the warmth rise, letting the ingredients talk to each other the way Rosa used to say they did. Milk, eggs, sugar, vanilla, cinnamon. Simple things. Honest things. Things that didn't pretend to be more than they were. Mrs. Grace hovered nearby, wringing her hands, pretending to tidy but failing miserably. She kept glancing at the staircase, as if expecting someone to come storming down it, which they did. Heels clicked viciously on the marble steps before Vanessa appeared, flawless, furious, trembling, and pretending not to be any of those things. Her phone was clenched in one manicured hand, screen glowing with whatever crisis she had been obsessing over. She didn't enter the kitchen so much as invade it. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" she demanded, voice sharp enough to slice the air. Sophia didn't flinch, didn't look up, didn't pause her whisking. "I'm cooking." "This is ridiculous," Vanessa threw her hands up. "Custard, really? You think feeding my son a dessert from a spiral notebook is going to fix whatever is wrong with him?" Sophia kept her tone level. "It's not just the dessert. It's nourishment he might accept because it feels safe. He needs a doctor, not whatever this is." Grace stepped in, her voice soft but firm. "He needs someone who actually sees him." Vanessa shot her a glare. "Stay in your lane, Grace." The older woman lowered her eyes, but her hands clenched behind her back. Sophia continued whisking, unbothered. "You asked for help.
This is what help looks like. I asked for expertise, she snapped. Not, you asked for someone patient, someone who understands children. Vanessa froze. You asked for someone who could reach him, and I'm trying to do that right now. Vanessa blinked rapidly. Not anger, but panic bleeding through the cracks. You don't know anything about him, she whispered. Sophia finally looked at her. Then tell me. Vanessa went rigid, eyes darting away. Grace watched her carefully. Mrs. Whitmore. No! The word came out strangled. Sophia set the whisk down gently. Something happened, something emotional, something that hurt him enough to make him shut down. Vanessa's jaw tightened. If you want me to help him, you have to tell me. Vanessa shook her head violently. I don't have to tell you anything. Then you're not here for him, Sophia said calmly. You're here for the image of being a mother who's trying. Vanessa gasped like she'd been slapped. Grace inhaled sharply. Silence spread across the kitchen like spilled ink. Sophia didn't falter. You want the world to think you're doing everything you can, but you can't even say out loud what happened. You don't know anything, she hissed, stepping closer. You come into my home, you talk to me like you know me, and you think I'm going to... I think you're terrified. And guilt makes people defensive. Vanessa flinched. Her perfectly straight posture wobbled. Her voice, usually sharp and polished, cracked in the middle. I don't understand what happened that night. Then explain it. I can't. You can. I said I can't. Her voice cracked so loudly the sound echoed off the marble. Sophia remained still, steady, unmoved. Did you yell at him? She asked gently. Vanessa's breath hitched. Did you say something you regret? Vanessa shook her head, but tears slid down her cheeks anyway. Did he get scared of you? That broke her. Vanessa covered her mouth with her trembling hands, sobs leaking out between her fingers. Grace moved toward her on instinct, but Vanessa waved her away, trying desperately to hold herself together. I didn't mean it, she whispered, voice raw. I didn't mean any of it. Sophia stepped closer, not to judge, not to scold, but to listen. What happened? She asked softly. Vanessa sank into a bar stool like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hands shook, her chest heaved. I was exhausted, she whispered. Influencer events, interviews, travel. I hadn't slept in almost 2 days. Richard was gone, as usual, and Ben wouldn't stop crying. Her voice cracked again. He screamed for hours, and I just snapped. Grace looked down sadly. She had heard all of this weeks ago, through walls, through doors, through echoes of guilt that never faded. What did you say? Sophia asked quietly. Vanessa winced like the words themselves carried pain. I told him I wished he'd just be quiet forever. A tear fell onto her wrist. And then, she continued, shaking violently, he stopped crying. Sophia swallowed. He stopped everything. And the next morning, he wouldn't eat, wouldn't look at me, wouldn't reach for me. It was like I broke something I don't know how to fix. Sophia stepped closer, close enough to soften her voice, close enough to not feel like an enemy. You didn't break him, she said gently. You scared him. Vanessa looked up, devastated. I didn't want to, she whispered. I didn't want to hurt him. I know, Sophia replied, but children don't understand our exhaustion. They only understand our words. Vanessa covered her face again. Sophia continued, voice gentle but firm. You're not a bad mother. You're a mother who reached her limit and didn't ask for help until it was too late. Vanessa let out a bitter laugh. That's worse. No, Sophia said firmly. Worse is pretending everything is fine. Worse is ignoring his fear. Worse is letting your guilt stop you from fixing this. Vanessa's head lifted. Her eyes, red, swollen, glistening, met Sophia's. "Can it even be fixed?" she whispered. "Yes," Sophia said without hesitation, but not by pretending it never happened. Vanessa's breath trembled. "What do I do?" "Start by being honest," Sophia said softly. "With him, and with yourself." Vanessa looked away, overwhelmed. Sophia returned to the stove, turning off the heat. The custard shimmered, warm and fragrant, filling the room with cinnamon and comfort. "This will help him, but he needs more than food." "Like what?" "He needs to know you're safe." Vanessa's chin quivered. "I don't feel safe. I feel like someone else is living in my skin." Sophia nodded slowly. "Postpartum depression is real." Grace closed her eyes. She had suspected it for months. Vanessa's tears spilled again. "Richard says it's all in my head." Sophia's voice softened in a way that even Grace looked at her differently. "Then he's wrong." Vanessa covered her trembling mouth. "Come," Sophia said gently, lifting the warm custard. "We'll go together. You don't have to face him alone." Vanessa hesitated, then reached out with shaking fingers and steadied herself on Sophia's arm. A small gesture, a fragile surrender, a silent admission. She couldn't do this by herself anymore. Sophia led her toward the stairs, custard in hand, determination in her spine. Because this wasn't just about feeding a starving boy. This was about the truth finally cracking open. And once truth begins to spill, it never stops.
The climb up the grand staircase felt endless. Vanessa moved slowly, almost mechanically, as if every step required permission from a part of her that no longer trusted her legs. Sophia walked beside her, keeping pace without crowding her, holding the warm bowl of custard like something sacred. Grace followed a few steps behind them, wringing her hands, whispering prayers under her breath. She'd worked in this house for 26 years and had never seen the air this heavy. The walls seemed to listen, the chandeliers seemed to tremble. Even the polished floors seemed ashamed of the conversations they'd overheard. At the top of the stairs, outside little Ben's door, Vanessa froze. Her breath came in shallow bursts, her fingers twitched, her nails dug into her palms. Sophia turned toward her gently. "It's okay." "No, it's not," Vanessa whispered. Sophia didn't deny it. Can I just watch?" Vanessa asked, her voice barely audible. "At first, I don't want to scare him." Sophia nodded once. "You can stand wherever you need to." When Sophia pushed the door open, the room inside was dim. Thick blackout curtains smothered all sunlight. White noise hissed from a machine in the corner. Toys were scattered neatly, too neatly, across the floor. Not played with, not touched. And in the center of the room, curled up on the carpet like a wounded animal, was a little boy with big dark curls and hollow cheeks. Ben. He didn't notice them come in. He didn't look up. He didn't react to the sound of the door. He just rocked slightly, thumb in his mouth, staring at nothing. Sophia's heart squeezed painfully. She stepped inside slowly, quietly, lowering herself until she sat cross-legged on the floor a few feet from him. She set the custard bowl on her lap. The smell of vanilla floated through the room. Ben's rocking slowed, but only for a second. Sophia softened her voice to a whisper. "Hi, sweetheart." He didn't respond. "That's okay," she murmured. "You don't have to look at me yet." She lifted one spoonful, letting the scent drift toward him. A tiny inhale, a sniff, came from his direction. Vanessa covered her mouth, stifling a sob. Sophia didn't look away from the boy. She whispered, "You know, my mama taught me this recipe. She used to make it when my tummy hurt, when my heart hurt too." Ben's thumb slipped from his mouth for half a second. But he still didn't turn. "That's okay," Sophia repeated with gentle patience that wrapped around the room like a blanket. "We can go slow." She took another soft scoop and set the spoon on the floor between them. Ben blinked. His tiny body leaned the faintest bit forward. Vanessa's hands flew to her chest as another sob threatened, but she forced herself to stay silent, tears streaming down her face in complete stillness. Sophia exhaled softly. "You're doing so good." The boy didn't eat yet, but he didn't pull away. And for a child who hadn't accepted a single bite in 5 long days, that small shift felt seismic. Sophia didn't push, didn't coax, didn't beg. She just sat there, steady, warm, unthreatening. After a long, trembling moment, Ben lifted his head. His eyes, dark and exhausted, met hers for one fragile heartbeat. Then his gaze flicked past her, toward the doorway. Vanessa stiffened. If guilt had a face, it was hers. If regret had a body, it was hers. If desperation had a heartbeat, it was hers. Ben made a soft, wounded sound, a whimper that stabbed through the room like a cracked bell. Sophia heard it. Vanessa felt it. Grace flinched at it. The boy curled in on himself again, turning away, shaking lightly. Vanessa's knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. He's afraid of me." Sophia rose slowly, carrying the bowl with her until she stood in front of Vanessa. "He's afraid of the moment," she said softly, "not of you." Vanessa shook her head violently. "No, it's the same thing." "No," Sophia said firmly. "If it were the same thing, he wouldn't have looked at you." "That look wasn't trust," Vanessa whispered. "It was longing," Sophia countered, "and longing only exists when love still does." Vanessa collapsed against the wall, sobbing silently into her hands. Grace placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. "He still needs you. He always has." Sophia stepped aside as Vanessa slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor outside her son's room. The custard scent still lingered. Inside the room, Ben peeked over his little arms. Just a peek, barely anything. But his eyes drifted toward the spoon on the floor as though it were calling to him. Sophia saw it. "Sweetheart," she whispered softly from the doorway, "you're safe. No one will rush you." Ben shifted. Slow, slow, slow. He reached out with the tiniest trembling hand, touched the spoon, pulled back, touched it again. Vanessa gasped, covering her mouth with both hands. Sophia didn't breathe. Then Ben wrapped his tiny fingers around the spoon and lifted it. His hand shook, his lip trembled, his eyes darted toward the door again. Vanessa froze like a statue carved from fear and hope. Ben made a soft, wounded sound, a whimper that stabbed through the room like a cracked bell. Sophia heard it. Vanessa felt it. Grace flinched at it. The boy curled in on himself again, turning away, shaking lightly. Vanessa's knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. He's afraid of me." Sophia rose slowly, carrying the ball with her until she stood in front of Vanessa. "He's afraid of the moment," she said softly, "not of you." "No," Sophia said firmly. "If it were the same thing, he wouldn't have looked at you." "That look wasn't trust," Vanessa whispered. "It was longing," Sophia countered, "and longing only exists when love still does." Vanessa collapsed against the wall, sobbing silently into her hands. Grace placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. "He still needs you. He always has." Sophia stepped aside as Vanessa slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor outside her son's room. The custard scent still lingered.
Inside the room, Ben peeked over his little arms. Just a peek. Barely anything, but his eyes drifted toward the spoon on the floor as though it were calling to him. Sophia saw it. "Sweetheart," she whispered softly from the doorway, "you're safe. No one will rush you." Ben shifted. Slow, slow, slow. He reached out with the tiniest, trembling hand, touched the spoon, pulled back, touched it again. Vanessa gasped, covering her mouth with both hands. Sophia didn't breathe. Then Ben wrapped his tiny fingers around the spoon and lifted it. His hand shook, his lip trembled, his eyes darted to the door again. Vanessa froze like a statue carved from fear and hope. Ben dipped the tip of the spoon into the custard, barely enough to taste, barely a smear, and put it on his tongue. The world stopped. Grace burst into tears, muffling herself with her apron. Vanessa let out an aching, broken sob that tore from her soul. Sophia exhaled the air she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Ben swallowed. Swallowed. "What does this mean?" Vanessa whispered, voice shaking uncontrollably. Is he going to eat again?" Sophia nodded slowly, tears gathering in her own eyes. "It means he hasn't given up." Vanessa pressed her forehead to her knees, weeping, but not from guilt this time, from relief, from hope, from the fragile possibility that maybe, just maybe, she could fix what she broke. Sophia placed a hand on Vanessa's shoulder. "There's more work to do," she murmured. "This is only the beginning, but he just opened a door. Now you have to walk through it." Vanessa nodded through her tears. I want to." "It'll hurt," Sophia warned. "I deserve that." "No," Sophia whispered. "This isn't about punishment. It's about rebuilding." Vanessa lifted her head. Sophia offered her a small, steady smile. "We can do it together." Before Vanessa could respond, footsteps thundered down the hallway, heavy, angry, and titled. Richard. Still in his tailored suit, still talking into his Bluetooth headset, still barking orders and numbers like the world existed only in transactions. When he turned the corner and saw the three women on the floor, his eyes snapped open in shock. "What the hell is going on?" Vanessa wiped her face, scrambling to stand. "Richard! Why is everyone crying? What happened? Why is she," his gaze cut to Sophia, "still here?" Sophia straightened. Grace tensed. Vanessa took a deep breath, steadying herself for the first time in weeks. "Richard, we need to talk." Something in her voice made him pause, made him look closer, made him realize something had shifted without his permission. And Richard Whitmore never reacted well to losing control. His expression hardened. "What did you tell her?" Sophia didn't answer. Vanessa did. "The truth." Richard's jaw flexed. "The truth about what?" he snapped. Vanessa lifted her chin. "About what happened to our son. About what I said. About what I did. About what you ignored." Richard stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "You told her that?" "Yes." "You told a stranger about our private life?" Sophia stepped forward. "She's not your problem. Your son is." Richard scoffed. "I hired you to get him to eat, not to start drama." Sophia didn't blink. "I wasn't hired to perform magic. I was hired to help. And helping requires honesty." Richard's eyes narrowed. "Get out." Vanessa gasped. "Richard!" But Sophia didn't flinch. "I won't leave until he's better," she said simply. "You don't have to like me, you just have to let me work." Richard stepped closer, towering, angry, threatening. "You don't get to tell me what to do in my own house." Sophia met his glare without flinching. "I'm not telling you," she said calmly. "I'm telling the truth." For the first time, Richard faltered. as if he realized the ground beneath him was shifting, and not in his favor. Ben whimpered again inside the room. All three adults instantly turned toward the sound. Sophia's voice softened. "He ate a bite. He's trying. Don't ruin that." Richard froze. For the first time since she'd met him, he didn't know what to say. The fallout wasn't over. It was only beginning. But some faults lead to collapse, and some lead to rebuilding. This one was going to do both.
Word spread through the Whitmore mansion faster than wildfire. By evening, every staff member knew one thing: the boy had eaten. Because of Sophia. Not because of the doctors. Not because of the specialists flown in from Europe. Not because of the $40,000 custom meal plan sitting untouched in the kitchen fridge. Because of a single mother from East LA with a $9 custard recipe and a gentle voice. But miracles in houses like this one never stayed pure for long. The moment Ben swallowed that one bite, two things happened. Vanessa broke into tears of relief, and Richard snapped. He didn't yell right away. That would have been too easy. He simmered. He paced. He rubbed his temples like the universe itself had offended him. And when powerful men simmer, the temperature of every room in the house rises. Sophia felt it immediately, like the mansion itself was tightening around her. Grace noticed it too. "He's gonna make trouble," she whispered while refilling water glasses in the formal dining room. Sophia didn't deny it. Trouble was already on its way. It arrived 20 minutes later in the form of Dr. Anthony Delgado, the celebrity pediatrician who billed $10,000 an hour and wore arrogance like cologne. He marched into the mansion with a leather briefcase, a camera-ready smile, and the unmistakable irritation of someone who'd been told his expertise had been upstaged. "Where is the patient?" he demanded sharply. Vanessa tensed. "He's resting." "And the custard?" he asked, somehow turning the word into an insult. Sophia folded her arms. "It worked." Dr. Delgado smiled, a patronizing TV doctor smile. "Of course it did," he said smoothly. "Toddlers often respond to novelty foods. But let's not pretend a dessert fixed his condition." Sophia raised a brow. "Novelty wasn't the ingredient." "Oh?" he asked sarcastically. "Please, enlighten me." "Comfort," she said simply. "Safety. Gentleness." Delgado blinked. Richard stormed into the room behind him. "Finally! Doctor, we need real answers, not homemade recipes." Sophia's jaw tightened. "Ben ate because he felt safe, not pressured." Delgado waved dismissively. "Emotional theories have their place, but medical science. Science didn't work for 5 days. This did." Richard ignored her. "Doctor, what do we do next?" Delgado turned, fully ready to reclaim authority. "We begin a comprehensive analysis, blood work, neurological exams, metabolic tests." Sophia stepped between him and the staircase. "No." The room went dead silent. Delgado blinked rapidly, as if he couldn't comprehend the word. "No?" he repeated. Sophia held her ground. "You're not stepping into that room with needles and machines and loud voices. Not now. Not after he finally tasted food." Richard sharpened his stare. "You forget your place," he said, voice low and dangerous. Sophia lifted her chin. "My place is wherever that child needs me to be." Grace pressed her hand to her chest, whispering, "Oh, Lord." Delgado tried again. This situation requires medical expertise, not intuition. He doesn't need tests, Sophia said. He needs stability. Richard leaned closer. If you interfere again, you will be removed from this house. Sophia didn't blink. Then remove me. But hear this first. If you storm in there with needles and strangers, he will shut down again. And the next 5 days might be worse than the last 5 days. Silence. Even Delgado's breathing hitched, because deep down, every person in that room already sensed she was right, but admitting it cost too much pride. Richard didn't care. He turned to security. Escort her out. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Richard, stop! He brushed her off. I'm doing what you should have done from the beginning, keeping outsiders from making decisions about our family. Sophia exhaled slowly. She had expected this, so she wasn't surprised when 2 guards approached, apologetic but firm. Ma'am, please don't make this harder. Grace stepped forward in protest. Mr. Whitmore, please! Not a word, Grace. Sophia gathered her bag, her jacket, and her dignity. Before she left, she faced Vanessa. I'll come back if you want me to, she said quietly. But if you don't, make sure he feels safe, more than anything else. Vanessa's eyes brimmed with tears. Sophia, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, she whispered. But it is your turn. The guards escorted her to the door. As she stepped outside, she heard Delgado's voice behind her. I'll prepare the testing equipment. And Vanessa's whisper, No, wait! We can't do this to him! Then Richard's cutting tone, We are not letting a nanny override medical science. The door shut behind her. The mansion's gold-trimmed facade gleamed back at her, cold, perfect, and utterly indifferent. Sophia walked down the stone steps slowly, every muscle trembling with the urge to run back inside and protect that child. But this wasn't her house. Not now. Not until she was called back. She reached the bottom of the driveway before she heard footsteps pounding behind her. Grace. Red-eyed, breathless, desperate. Wait! Sophia turned. He's going to force those tests tonight, she choked out. Vanessa tried to stop him, but you know how he is. Once Richard makes up his mind... Sophia nodded sadly. Ben won't handle it. No, she whispered, shaking. He won't. They stood there, 2 women on opposite ends of wealth, united by one small child they both loved. Do you think he'll eat again? Grace asked, voice breaking. Or was that one bite, was that all we're going to get? Sophia inhaled deeply. Then she shook her head. He'll eat again, she said firmly. Grace's tears fell harder. But not tonight. No, Sophia admitted. Tonight, they're about to undo everything. Grace clutched her apron. So what do we do? Sophia looked up at the mansion, the towering walls, the guarded windows, and the weight of secrets hidden behind luxury. We wait, Sophia whispered. And when things fall apart, because they will, they'll realize they need me more than ever. Grace nodded slowly, her expression shifting from fear to grim understanding. Then I'll call you, she said, no matter what Richard says. Sophia touched her hand. Take care of him until then. I will, she whispered. I swear. They parted ways, Grace returning to the storm brewing inside, Sophia walking toward the city lights beyond the estate gates. She didn't know that in the next 48 hours, the tests would break Ben, Vanessa would break down, Richard would break the wrong rule, and the entire Whitmore mansion would fall. Then, only then, would they come for her again. And this time, she wouldn't be walking in through the front door alone.
The storm inside the Whitmore mansion struck before midnight. Sophia wasn't inside the house to witness it, but she heard about every detail later, from Grace, who narrated the night as if she were confessing to a priest. And it all began the moment Richard ordered the testing to begin. The medical team arrived in white lab coats like an invasion force. No warmth, no gentleness, no consideration for a child who hadn't eaten in nearly a week. They brought machines with blinking lights, wires, vials, cold metal tables, all the things that terrified little boys. Ben had been sleeping peacefully when they entered. Vanessa tried, really tried to shield him. "He needs rest," she pleaded. "Please, just a few hours." Delgado shook his head. "Time is critical." Richard reinforced it with a cutting glare. So they woke him. Grace said it was the sound of Velcro straps being opened that made him stir. A small, confused sound came from his throat. A whimper, not even words. Then he saw the strangers. He saw the tools, and he froze. Not the stillness of calm, the stillness of absolute fear. "Just hold him steady," one nurse said. Grace said Vanessa's scream could have cracked the walls. "Don't touch him!" But no one listened. Because in that house, Vanessa's voice had always carried one silent condition. Only if Richard agreed. And he didn't. So they touched him anyway. Grace said she'd never forget the look on his face, those wide eyes full of betrayal as two nurses gently pinned his arms while another tried to draw blood. He didn't cry at first. He didn't scream. He shut down. Like someone had unplugged him from the world. Vanessa sobbed, begging them to stop. Grace said she tried to interfere and was dragged back by security. Delgado muttered something clinical, a dissociative response, with the cold detachment of a man observing a specimen, not a little boy. By the time they finished, Ben was limp in Vanessa's arms, not sleeping, not resting. Gone inward. And that's when Richard finally paused, because even he could tell something had changed. "He'll bounce back," Delgado assured him, "once he adjusts." But he didn't bounce back. The next morning, he wouldn't open his eyes. The morning after that, he wouldn't speak. No nods, no gestures, no reactions. Not even when Vanessa sang the lullaby he loved. Not even when Grace brought his favorite stuffed rabbit. Not even when Richard lost his patience and demanded, "Ben, look at Daddy." Nothing.
He disappeared into himself. And that disappearance tore the house apart. Vanessa stopped sleeping. She sat beside Ben night after night, brushing his hair gently with trembling fingers, whispering apologies he never heard. Grace prayed in the kitchen between chopping vegetables. Dr. Delgado insisted it was temporary regression. Richard blamed everyone, Vanessa, the doctors, the staff, but especially Sophia. "If she hadn't interfered, we wouldn't be in this mess," he barked. Except everyone remembered the truth. Sophia was the only one who'd reached him. The only one. And then, late at night, when the rest of the staff had gone home and the mansion had gone unnaturally still, Grace sent the call. Sophia answered before the first ring finished. "He won't open his eyes," Grace whispered, voice shaking. It's bad, Sophia, worse than before." Sophia grabbed her keys. "I'm coming." "You shouldn't," Grace warned. "Richard said he'd press charges if you stepped foot on the property again."
Sophia didn't hesitate. "Let him," she said. "Ben comes first." She drove through the night, every mile heavy with dread. The gates of the Whitmore estate loomed ahead like iron teeth. Security recognized her immediately, and panic flashed across their faces. "You can't be here," one guard said. Sophia stepped forward anyway. "Try and stop me." But before they could decide whether to restrain her or not, a small figure appeared on the steps. Vanessa. Barefoot. Eyes swollen. Hair tangled. She looked like a ghost. "Let her in," Vanessa said. The guards froze. "Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Whitmore gave strict orders." "Let her in." The words hit like gunfire. The guards stepped aside. Sophia rushed up the stairs. Vanessa met her halfway and collapsed into her arms. I didn't know what else to do. He won't wake up. He won't look at me. He won't. Please, Sophia, please, my baby." Sophia held her tight. "Take me to him." They went upstairs. The hallway was silent, too silent for a house normally filled with bustling staff and humming machines. When they entered Ben's room, the sight nearly crushed her. He lay curled tightly on his side, knees to his chest, fingers clenched around the blanket. His chest rose and fell quickly, too quickly. Panic trapped under stillness. Sophia approached carefully, lowering herself onto the floor beside his bed, not touching, not speaking yet, just letting him sense her presence. Vanessa hovered behind her, hands shaking. "Sophia, what do we do?" Sophia inhaled slowly. "We bring him back." "How?" Vanessa whispered, desperate. "The same way he left," Sophia said softly, slowly, gently, without fear. She closed her eyes for a moment, not praying but gathering every ounce of calm she possessed. Then she began. She spoke in the same rhythm she used on the day he took his first bite of custard, soft, steady, safe. "Hey, little one, it's me. I'm right here." No reaction. That was expected. She continued. "I missed you. The house has been too quiet without you." Vanessa covered her mouth from keeping from sobbing. Sophia leaned slightly closer, not touching him yet. "You know what else?" she whispered. "I brought something with me tonight." She reached into her bag slowly. Vanessa frowned. "What is it?" Sophia pulled out a small cloth pouch, the kind used for spices. She opened it just enough for the scent to escape. Warm vanilla, soft cinnamon, and a touch of honey. Custard. Not made, not cooked, just the aroma. A memory in a scent. Ben's breathing hitched. "Sophia," Vanessa whispered, covering her heart. "It's just a smell," Sophia whispered. "Nothing scary, nothing loud, nothing that can hurt you." She placed the pouch gently on the bed a few inches from his hand. He twitched. Sophia lowered her voice to a lullaby-like cadence. "You're safe," she murmured. "No needles, no machines, no strangers, just me and Mommy and your favorite smell." Ben's fingers slowly, agonizingly slowly unclenched. Vanessa gasped, "Oh my God." Sophia kept going. "You can stay curled up if you want. You can rest. You don't have to open your eyes yet, but if you want to know, Mommy's been right beside you the whole time." A tiny sound escaped him, a whimper, then a hiccup, the kind that comes after too many held-back tears. Vanessa fell to her knees. Sophia whispered, "That's it. Come back to us, sweetheart." And then, the smallest miracle in the world. His hand shifted toward the pouch. Not much, not all the way, but enough. Enough to show he was still in there, alive, listening, trying. Vanessa burst into tears, muffling her sobs so she wouldn't startle him. Sophia placed a hand gently on the floor near his pillow, close but still not touching him. "You're doing so well," she whispered. "So brave." For the first time in 48 hours, his eyelids fluttered, just once. But it was enough to change everything. It was enough to show the tide was turning. And Sophia knew exactly what that meant. When Richard found out she was back, there would be hell to pay. But first, she would save this child, no matter what storm came next.
The mansion felt like it was holding its breath. Downstairs, the halls were silent, unnaturally so. Even the staff, usually bustling from room to room at all hours, had vanished like ghosts into the walls. They all knew what was coming. War. Upstairs, in the low amber light of Ben's room, Sophia knelt beside the bed, whispering softly as he clutched the little spice pouch. Vanessa hovered a few feet behind her, hands trembling, tears drying on her cheeks. Then the footsteps came, slow, heavy, controlled. Richard Whitmore did not storm when he was angry. He approached like a man sharpening a blade with every step. Vanessa stiffened instantly. Sophia's jaw went tight. Even Ben's breathing trembled again. The door slammed open. Richard stood in the doorway, chest heaving, suit jacket unbuttoned, tie slightly askew, like he'd abandoned a charity gala to handle a crisis. His gaze locked on Sophia, and something inside him snapped. "What," he said slowly, "is she doing in my house?" Vanessa moved before Sophie could speak. "Richard, no!" The word ricocheted through the room like a gunshot. "You brought her here?" he demanded, "after I explicitly banned her from ever stepping foot inside this home again? Have you lost your mind, Vanessa?" "It's not about you," Vanessa cried. "Look at him!" "No!" Richard pointed at Sophia like she were a stain on his life. "The manipulator, the one who poisoned this entire household." Sophia rose to her feet, voice even. "I didn't come here to fight with you." "Then get out." "No." Richard froze mid-step. No one ever told Richard Whitmore no. Sophia's voice didn't rise, it didn't sharpen, it didn't even tremble. "I'm not leaving him like this." Richard gave a humorless laugh. "He is my son." Sophia stepped closer. "Then act like it." Vanessa gasped quietly. Richard's eyes went black with rage. "You're lecturing me? In my home? After you undermined every expert I brought in? After you filled my wife's head with fairy tales about bonding and comfort when he needs discipline and structure?" Sophia stared him dead in the eye. "That little boy is traumatized because you let strangers restrain him like an animal." "It was a medical procedure." "It was torture," Sophia snapped. The room seemed to tilt. Richard stepped forward so fast, Vanessa flinched. He towered over Sophia, fists clenched at his sides. "You come into my home uninvited? You defy my orders? You interfere with my son? You think I won't have you arrested?" Sophia didn't move. "You can call the police," she said softly, "but before you do, take a good look at your son." Richard's glare flicked toward the bed. And for the first time in days, Ben's eyes were open. Barely. Just enough. He wasn't gone anymore. He was peeking at Sophia with a fragile, tremulous awareness, as if she were the first gentle thing he'd seen in days. Richard inhaled sharply. Vanessa choked on a sob. Sophia didn't look away from Richard. "You see?" she whispered. "He trusts me. I am not the problem here." Richard's throat bobbed. He was a man used to control, a man who built empires, bought silence, reshaped people to his will. But he couldn't force his son to look at him. He couldn't force the staff to stop whispering behind closed doors. He couldn't force the world to bend in this one moment. And that, more than anything, set him ablaze. "Vanessa!"
he said, low, dangerous. "Come here." Vanessa stood frozen. "Richard! Now!" Vanessa didn't move. Richard's jaw ticked. "You're choosing her over me?" Vanessa swallowed hard. "I'm choosing our son." For a moment, Richard's mask cracked so deeply the whole world seemed to pause. "You're weak," he hissed, "both of you, and I'm done letting weakness rule this family." He stepped toward Ben. Sophia moved instantly, shifting her body between them. "If you touch him, I will ruin you." Richard stared at her like she'd grown claws. "You," he scoffed, "you're nothing, a former nanny with delusions of grandeur." "I'm the woman your son reaches for in the dark," Sophia said, voice barely above a whisper. "And you," she added, "are the reason he stopped speaking." Those words struck him harder than any slap. Richard lunged. Vanessa shrieked. Grace, who had been hiding in the hallway, ran in screaming. Security stormed toward the door, unsure who to obey. Richard's fist didn't land, because it collided with something hard. A small, lavender-painted wooden stool. Sophia had snatched it and held it between them like a shield. Richard's knuckles cracked against the edge, blood blooming instantly. He staggered back, stunned. Sophia didn't flinch. "You're done," she said. "You don't get to decide. I'm not talking to you." Footsteps thundered down the hall. Not security, not staff. Law enforcement. 3 officers rushed in, summoned by someone none of them expected. Grace. She stepped into the room, pale but resolute. "Officer," Grace said, voice trembling but firm, "Mr. Whitmore assaulted Miss Sophia. The cameras caught everything." Richard spun to her. "You little traitor!" One officer raised a hand. "Sir, step back." "This is my home!" "And this is a domestic disturbance call. You lay a hand on anyone here and we take you in tonight." Richard looked around wild-eyed. The officers, Grace, Vanessa clutching Ben, Sophia standing tall, everyone against him. Even his own son, who blinked at the commotion and whimpered softly, reaching blindly toward Sophia. Richard's face crumbled. Not with grief, with humiliation. "You think you've won?" he whispered. "You think any of you will survive this?" Sophia knelt beside Ben, her back to Richard, as if he were already irrelevant. "No," she said, "not think. No." Richard staggered backward. Vanessa spoke then, softly, but with steel in her spine. "Richard," she said, "leave, for tonight, for all our sakes." He looked at her like she'd stabbed him. "This is mutiny. This is motherhood." She corrected. Another crack in his armor, another inch of power slipping from his hands. Richard straightened his jacket, wiped his bloody knuckles on his sleeve, and glared at Sophia one last time. "This isn't over." Sophia met his gaze. "Yes, it is." Richard stormed out, security trailing him in confusion, officers shadowing him down the staircase. When the footsteps finally faded, the house exhaled. Vanessa collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Grace pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. Sophia returned her focus to Ben, stroking his hair, whispering softly as he blinked up at her. He wasn't fully back yet, not healed, not safe. But the door to recovery had opened, and he was stepping through. Vanessa finally spoke.
"Sophia, thank you." Sophia didn't turn. "Don't thank me yet." "Why?" Sophia looked at the boy who clung to her presence like a lifeline. "Because now," she whispered, "we have to save him for real." And somewhere outside, the engine of Richard's car revved, the sound of a man retreating to regroup. He wasn't done. But neither was she. Not anymore. Not ever.